Hello, my most amazing artists. So today we are going to finish our sloth. We've drawn our sloth, we listened to the story, then last week we used crayons and or oil pastels and gave our sloth some texture, and then we colored our tree nice and solid. So today we're going to take care of the sky. He's hanging out in the sky and taking his nap. Now this is where you get to make your decisions as an artist. But before we get started, you're going to need a cup of clean water and something that you can put paint in. You need your paint set, your big green paintbrush, and probably a paper towel. If you're painting like in a kitchen or a table, make sure you have something underneath it to protect your table. Watercolor does wipe up, but ask who you live with before you start painting on a table without a surface underneath it. This is my desk in the art room, which is so used to being painted on, and it cleans up really easy, so I'm not worried about it. All right, so once you have all your materials, we're ready to start painting. We're gonna paint this using either warm colors, because it's daytime, or cool colors if you want it to be nighttime. That's your call and you're the artist. I'm gonna make mine daytime because sloths like to sleep all day, and I thought that'd be funny if I could do like some sort of sunrise, something pretty. So my warm colors in my art kit are at the top unless it's different. You have red, orange, and yellow. Now we also have magenta, and that's that pinky color. You can use that for a warm color or a cool color this week. So I could use red, orange, and yellow, and maybe the magenta for my warm colors. Now if you want it to be nighttime, you can use your blue, purple, magenta, and turquoise. I don't think we need to put green in the sky, so we're not using green this week. So let's not use green, because we don't want to put green here. So if we color neatly with our oil pastels, we're creating that resist, and the water won't like the oil, and we don't have to be super careful around some of these edges where it might be tricky. However, I want you to practice painting on your tippy toes on those small areas. So hold it like a pencil and get in there with your tippy toes. Otherwise, you can kind of paint sideways. Watercolor needs lots of water. You can tell I've been using watercolor because my finger is purple. Sometimes watercolor, we use liquid watercolor like we did last year in our rainbow pictures, but I was going to use this for this project, but let's get practicing in our set, and that's what you have at home. So when you're ready to paint, I suggest you paint your lighter colors first, because if you're going to use yellow and then go into the dark red and your water gets dirty, your yellow is always going to be orange. So I know I want to use yellow, so I'm going to start with yellow. So before I get started, I'm going to put my hand on my cup. I'm going to swish, swish, swish my paintbrush to get it wet. I'm going to drip, never tap. So swish, 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 drip, and then tickle, tickle, or wiggle, wiggle. So I'm just kind of swirling it a couple times. Remember, watercolors have lots of water. It shouldn't be dry, and if you need more water, you can just go and get more water. If you think it's too light, you can go and get a little water and tickle some more paint on there. I'm going to have it like the sun's kind of around him, and then maybe goes different. But I want you to work really wet. I want your paint to be wet, because what we're going to do, and I'll just paint the top, you guys know what we're talking about, is I want to go into my orange and paint next to my wet yellow so those blend. So when the colors are wet, they blend together really nice. When they're dry or using it too thick, the paint makes stripes. And we're trying not to do stripes. We're trying to make it look like it's either sunrise or sunset. And if you wait too long and it gets dry, you can reactivate it. So right here, see how it's bleeding together? I think that's so cool. If I want to help it, I can add some water. There. You also can put water straight on your paper, and then you can add some paint on top of that, and you can paint the water right on it, and it helps it kind of blend softer. So if you don't want your colors really, oh, see how it explodes? Oh, I love it. I love painting. It's so fun. So those colors kind of explode. So if you paint that water first, it reactivates the paint on your paper. I'm going to kind of be a little careful around my tree, but I don't have to be super careful. So I painted with just the water I had, and then I added the red, and it just kind of explodes out. We are working really wet because we want our colors to blend and be soft like a sunrise or a sunset or a nighttime sky, however you want. If you decide you don't like this look, you're more than welcome to paint just one color. You're going to get puddles of color, and that's okay. I kind of actually really like that. If you want to add a little darker colors to soften your yellow, you can go and mix on top of it. Because it's all wet, I can kind of play with that way. You're going to paint everything. So I'm gonna come down here and add some yellow. Ooh, that was really dark. I'm gonna smooth that out. So if you're painting, I didn't water resist my little sloth claws. I have to be kind of careful, so just on my tippy toes. But I can be kind of a little rushed around my tree. Remember our sloth, we didn't have a lot of, we have some white space in there, so be careful around your sloth. All right, so just go ahead. I liked it when I just painted with the clear water. And sometimes you can put clear water next to the regular paint and it kind of pulls it down and softens it. There's so much stuff you can do. So you can paint your sky either in warm colors or cool colors. I'm looking for you to paint using the wet on wet technique, meaning that you're using lots of water and your colors kind of flow together. What I don't want to see is really strict lines. We want them to soften. So if you accidentally don't use enough water in the beginning, that's okay. That orange got really dark. If you don't like how dark something is, remember we just add water and you can move it around. You can paint right over that oil pastel, see, and it doesn't do anything. I can just take my paper towel and just blot it. Okay, if you get a really big puddle that you don't like on your picture paper, you can use your paper towel, but I kind of love the puddles. It's sometimes my favorite. So having nice wet paper, lots of water on your brush, that's the key to wet on wet. You don't want to mix your colors in your container, mix them on your paper. So once you're happy with that, you're done. Now, I think I might want this to be a little darker red, so I can do two things. I can paint right on top of it, and I just made an oops and dripped on my sloth, so I'm going to blot that. I can darken it here while it's wet, or I can let it dry and then go back in and darken it. If you paint wet paint on dry paper, it's going to be really vibrant, but it won't blend as well. So if you want it to be a little darker but still blend like we're talking about, you need to do it when it's still wet. Just keeps it a little softer. Now we don't want to use so much scrubbing, so lots of water but a little scrubbing. So I kind of like how that looks more than this. So you don't need to sit here and watch Mrs. Cole have fun painting. It's one of my favorite things to do. After a long day of teaching, it's just kind of fun to kind of come in here and play. So you play, you have fun, you decide what color sky you have, and work on using lots of water and getting our watercolor technique down. We're doing washes of color using the wet on wet technique. So when we're all done, you're gonna squish your brush, scrape it on your side, put that off to dry, and then leave your paint set open. I don't know if you can see my paint set. I've been using it. My paint set actually has puddles of water in it, and that says I've used enough water for my watercolor. I need to leave my paper flat to dry, or it's gonna rip. Depending on what paper you use, it's really wet. So I'm gonna leave this to dry. I'm gonna leave this open to dry. And once everything's dry, take a nice clean picture of your sloth painting, and I can't wait to see the final result. So let these dry, put this somewhere safe, ask whoever you live with, because if you close them when they're wet, they get sticky. If you have nowhere to keep it where the cat won't get into it, you can always take a piece of paper towel, fold it like a hot dog bun, gently lay it over the top, and then close it in there. And that helps get any drips and stuff in there too. But since nobody's in my art room and see the water goes on the paper towel, I'm gonna leave that open, and I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye, my most amazing artists.